The Author of the Year award goes to J.K. Rowling.
She's really funny and cool, and I like the magical bits in it.
I think it's one of the best books I've ever read.
I've read all three and I think they're really good because they're so imaginative and it's out of this world.
It inspires me to do some more writing than I have been doing.
I'm so terrified. If you're all 9 years old, I'd feel so much more comfortable.
To say that J.K. Rowling has taken the literary world by storm would be a huge understatement. 3 books into her 7-book Harry Potter series, and the rookie author is a worldwide superstar. Valerie Bierman is with the Federation of Children's Book Groups in Edinburgh, Scotland. Valerie has followed the career of J.K. Rowling and the dramatic success of the Harry Potter book series.
She's a young woman with a young daughter living in Edinburgh, and I think she's probably as surprised as anybody at the success of the books because nobody's got anything to compare her with. And I met her first when she came to my house to be interviewed, and it was absolutely extraordinary because she's got so many ideas, because I remember asking her if she ever wanted to write something completely different, and she said not. She had so many ideas for Harry, she could write them ad infinitum. And knowing her, I'm sure she probably will.
My first and middle name is Joanne Kathleen. Kathleen is from my dad's mum, one of my grandparents, which is really lucky because the other grandmother was called Frida. So I think I lucked out actually getting Kathleen there somehow.
I think she was quite clever in the author of the book being J.K. Rowling rather than Joanne Rowling, because it gets boys reading, and boys tend to think if you've got initials, you're a man. And this macho image, they are much more likely to read if they think it's been written by a man.
Well, first time I read The Philosopher's Stone, I thought it was the best book I've ever read because it was so exciting, and I always used to get up when my mum and dad were in bed and start reading it because I had to finish it. And then the second book, it was a wee bit better and it was longer as well, so that was good.
My favourite character is Harry. Why? Because he's just gets into mischief all the time, and he's just the main character. So I suppose you have to get to like him, really.
How many books am I planning to write? Harry Potter books. There will be 7 in total. 1 for each of you. Oh, you look happy. I'm so glad. That would be very depressing if you went, oh no. Can't you give it a rest now? He's going to be at Hogwarts for 7 years. In the 7th book, he'll turn 17, so he'll come in my wizarding world, you come of age at 17. Okay, so in book 7, he'll be allowed to use magic outside school. Ha-ha. So Dudley's really going to be in trouble. Now look at you being nasty to Dudley.
I think they like the imagination of it. They're scared. Because all children like being scared. And I know the books have stirred up quite a bit of controversy over it being too frightening and witchcraft and all this. Children love it, and they just enjoy reading a jolly good story. I
get letters from parents saying I'm mean because I make Harry be nasty to Dudley, and I'm like, have you read Dudley? Do you understand what Dudley's like? I mean, there's turning the other cheek and there's just being a moron.
The Federation of Children's Book Groups has given its top prize to J.K. Rowling for 3 straight years. It's an award that's voted on exclusively by children. Because of that, it's an award that Rowling holds close to her heart.
Well, the Federation run the Children's Book Award, which is the only award which is chosen entirely by children. And Harry Potter has been unique in that each book has won the Children's Book Award every year. And she's immensely popular with the children, and we've never known a phenomenon quite like it. We're very proud of it as well, because of course Harry Potter was born here in Edinburgh. when the award started, some critics were rather sniffy and said, oh, children can't possibly choose a book. They've been proved wrong many times, because several of the books that have won the Children's Book Award have gone on to win awards like the Carnegie Medal, which is the Library Association's highest award, and things like that. Children are very discerning. And the Harry Potter books took off immediately and won by a huge margin, because often the winner is quite close run thing, but Harry Potter not.
The proof is definitely in the pudding, or in this case, in the cash register. By the time the second Potter book came out, bookstores had to employ crowd control officers, and the launch was delayed until after school was out.
It's been extraordinary. When she launched the third one last July, they were queuing around the shop, and it's the first time that there's been this hysteria when the author wasn't even there. And there were all these children besieging bookshops, and there was no author there, which is unheard of. And they were fighting to get their hands on copies. And of course there's been a huge search for first editions, which I have to say I haven't got either. I've been checking up on all mine, and none of them are first editions, unfortunately, or my old age would have been secured.
It was not an easy start for Joanne Rowling, but once she hit her stride, there was no stopping her Cinderella story. A recently divorced mother, barely getting by on welfare, Joanne Rowling moved to Edinburgh and took up residence in a small flat. During the day, she would escape the confines of her apartment, taking refuge in cafes and restaurants.
Hello, Nicholson's.
Her favorite spot was Nicholson's. While baby Jessica slept, Joanne would sip espresso and begin writing longhand, what was to become the biggest-selling children's book series ever.
She said from the very start, she knew sort of what she was going to write. She did it all longhand, sort of pen and paper at first. I mean, I imagine she's got a sort of a few high-tech bits of equipment these days, but it was pen and paper and scribblings out and liquid paper and just going over it and over it.
Yeah, when we all knew she was writing the books, but she was in quite often, several times a week for a good few hours at a time. She sat drinking coffee, so when you have a customer that's in for long periods of time anyway, the staff do get to know them and get to know what they're up to and why they're here, so yeah, she got to know quite a few of the staff quite well, I think.
Meantime, on the other side of town, the folks over at Waterstones are trying to keep Harry Potter on the shelves, and they're bracing themselves for the next book launch.
When the second book came out, we did an event actually in our shop with her, which was absolutely, sold out. Ever kids asking questions, lots of adults there as well, which was great. But last year with the third one, it was just crazy, absolutely crazy. We ordered more of that book than we've ever done of any sort of adult book, just to sort of cope with the demand. Never known a book so eagerly awaited, people coming in asking, from book 2 when it came out, when's the next one, when's the next one. It's, been the same. A lot of people have been asking, but I think they realise now that it's, an annual thing, which July is the publication date, and we've got to wait. So she was a teacher, so I think that sort of helps, answers every single one of them, not patronising us, to the kids, even, she's getting asked the same questions over and over again. She's a very nice, sort of down-to-earth lady. It doesn't, success like that, as far as I can see, hasn't affected her that, she just has got her feet firmly on the ground.
It's very hard to choose your favourite character because even the horrible ones are fun to write about. Like, obviously I would hate to meet Dudley. Well, actually I wouldn't mind meeting Dudley because I would torment him horribly. But, or Snape, for example. But it's fun to write about Snape, even though he is a deeply horrible person. In terms of people I'd like to meet, if you put aside Harry and Ron and Hermione, Hagrid, definitely. I love Hagrid dearly. I'd love to have him as a friend, and it would be so cool if you know, you got into a bit of trouble with someone and said, perhaps you'd like to discuss that with my friend Hagrid. It would be so useful in shops and stuff. Banks would be good.
It's just such a fantastic story. You get so involved in it and you're wanting to know what's going to happen next. It's very involving, quite a gripping book, and just the fact that there's going to be 7 in the series that you're wanting to know what's going to happen after.
And each book, is a story, and it's, you can read them as a series or you can read them on their own, which is also, quite nice. You're not left hanging on. Well, of course you want to find out what happens in the next, but it is, something different, which is nice. It's fantastic because we get people, coming in saying, my child, they've not been that interested in reading before, but suddenly, they've got these books and they just want to read, and they sort of ask, for similar things, because there's a lot of brilliant sort of children's books out there that just, doesn't get the attention, the sort of press. But now it's bringing more people into bookshops, which is great, because one kid's got it in the playground, and then before you know it, they're all sort of reading it, So.
Joanne and her sister Diane were raised for the most part in the English countryside. In Winterbourne, they lived on a street a few doors down from a family named the Potters. Vicky Potter and older brother Ian Potter played dress-up with Joanne. While Ian didn't have a lightning bolt scar, he did have all the characteristics of a future children's fantasy hero. For Ian, Vicky, and their mother Ruby, it was a trip down memory lane as they visited their old neighborhood and remembered the witches and wizards games that led to a bestseller.
That's where Christopher used to live. Don't know who's there now.
She had an imagination because it was always her who would come up with what we were going to do or what was going to be into, put into the potions or, that type of thing. And always the leader, so she was forever leading us into games, or instigating. So I think from that side, more, I suppose, leadership, or not leadership as such, but just her imagination and what we would play and where the ideas, originated from.
They were very close, the two sisters. They were inseparable, but they were fun to have and they were always laughing. In fact, all the children were happy children in those days because they didn't have things to fight about. But Joanne and Diane were very quiet, very close. Their mum was lovely. And they just got on well with Ian and Vicky. They had lots of fun and everyone shared. Joanne, as you know, was very good with her books. They used to play and sit, and if they read stories, it was probably Joanne that always done the reading because she was probably one of the older ones as well. But, you see them go off to school hand in hand on the morning, and Ian and Vicky would go off. And then Diane's and Joanne's mum, we always walked to the top of the drive to see the children come back from school. Joanne and Diane would come from one direction and Ian and Vicky would come from the other. But it was just lovely, and knowing that she's achieved what she achieves now makes you look back and appreciate it even more because it's something you'll never forget.
Well, mainly it was dressing up, and we had a little box full of clothes, and we'd have witches' hats and broomsticks. I mean, we'd all take the brooms out of the garages and stuff, and just, we'd have little black capes and they'd be painted, and usually we would have done potato painting on there of the little, the stars and stuff. So, and that was it. And we used to sit, there was some trees in one of the gardens, and don't ask me which one, I can't remember. But we'd have like our little, that would be where we'd sit and, do all the spells and stuff. So
it was a thing that just seemed to come out nearly all the time. Do you know what I mean? It's the box. Every time the group got together and the box was out, and everyone would grab whatever they wanted, sort of thing. And and then off we go, sort of into the backs of the houses, into the rear garden, sort of thing, to carry on playing and that. And Joanne would always sort of be the one with a book in front of her, when she'd be the one sort of like reading out what's the spells and what she was putting into here and putting into there, sort of thing. It's greatness about. But yeah, it's hard to remember sort of things. You sort of thing, and you think, yeah, you can remember that and you remember that. You can never sort of remember the whole story of what was going on. I mean, it was a fair few years ago, so.
I didn't realise that the name Potter meant so much to her. And I used to think it was lovely. I used to just think, why haven't I got a name like Potter instead of Rowling? And she said she spent hours, lots and lots of time, trying to find a name for Harry. And then she said one day it just came to me. I was sat there and it just rolled off my tongue, and it was magic. And she achieved it. So that's how I suppose it came around. Yeah. It's almost like going back really down memory lane.
It is.
Yeah.
At the age of 9, Joanne and her family left the Potters behind and moved to the village of Tutshill, just steps from the border separating England from Wales. These children at Tutshill Primary are reading their Harry Potter books in the very school where J.K. Rowling first started to exhibit her creativity on paper. Some have a special connection to the Rowling family, but all are big fans.
My dad and my mum used to know J.K. Rowling's parents, and her mum gave us a doll's house just before she died. And my piano teacher used to teach J.K. Rowling.
In the first book it says to Mr. Morgan, and Mr. Morgan was my dad's godfather.
The characters are really they're really described well, and some of the teachers turn out to be really evil when they act really good. It might seem weird, but I like Professor Snape because, like, he seems the big bad meanie, but it's like, especially when Harry was up in the Quidditch match, and Professor Quirrell was trying to get him down, Snape was trying to keep him on his broom with his spell.
I've read all three and I think they're really good because they're so imaginative and it's out of this world.
I started reading Potter book at Christmas, and I thought it looked very exciting. My favourite part was when Harry managed to break out of the Dursleys' house through the metal bars.
Why is that your favourite part?
Because he managed to magic himself out the bars when it was illegal. I draw Ron with Scabbers sitting on his shoulder, and because I like Ron because he's very loyal to Harry, especially in the Philosopher's Stone, when he gives himself up in the chess game. It's Hagrid, and the things that he's holding are chickens, because in the second book, in the Chamber of Secrets, the snake thing don't like the crew of chickens.
For children, the Harry Potter books are tough to put down. The characters are colorful, the story's exciting, and the suspense of what's around the next corner almost unbearable.
Did a lot of you find that you couldn't put the book down?
Yeah.
Does anybody got a record for a number of hours sitting reading it without being able to put down? What do you think, Tom?
6.
6 hours without putting the book down. Anybody else?
I started to read it for about 2 hours in the most exciting part of The Prisoner of Azkaban.
2 hours. Well, they must be holding your attention. Any other reasons why you think the books are so good? Duncan?
It's got so many twists. Like, you just think something's going to happen, or it's one particular person that's
the bad guy, and it changes completely. There's so many twists in it. It makes it so exciting.
The main character, Harry Potter, do you think he reminds you of anyone that you actually know? Can you think of anyone you know in your life that's anything like him? What do you think, Ian?
Well, at the start he's like any other boy, so he is that or any boy. But once you get into it and you get into the book and you see that he's a big wizard and a big hero, then there's no one that's really compares to him.
Do you think it's a good idea that they make him just an ordinary boy at the beginning?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Because
Ailey, what do you think?
Well, it's more interesting because you wouldn't expect him to be a wizard if he's like just a normal boy at the beginning.
Leo?
When I didn't read the blurb at the back and I saw the front cover of the book, I had no idea if he was going to be a wizard.
Who do you think your favourite character would be if you had to pick a favourite? Who's got a favourite? Christine?
Mine's Hagrid.
Hagrid. Yeah. Right, you tell us a bit about Hagrid and why you like him so much.
Well, I like him because he's friendly and he's like troubled a lot because he went through a lot of trouble and was accused when he didn't do something that he was accused of. And I just like him because he's caring and friendly.
He's caring and friendly. He looks after Harry, doesn't he?
And he feels really responsible for him, and he isn't what you think he would be at first because he's a giant and he's really big. So, and you'd think he'd be really scary, but it's actually friendly.
Who's got a different favourite character? Right, Duncan.
I like the Weasley twins because everything they do is just so... It's as if all their tricks have been organised and they've been planning them for weeks. It's just the things they do. They're just they make it seem real. It's the sort of things normal mischief makers would do, and they're my favourite characters.
Are they the kind of boys you can imagine being in a school?
Yeah, but I doubt they've been in the school for very long.
Older students are also fans. They have a different perspective, but they are still fans.
Well, I think the whole idea of her being a single mother and sort of living in child benefits and that sort of thing is very interesting, that she's now probably, I think it's something like the third richest woman in the world. I think it's just amazing that she's been able to do that in such a short amount of time.
She didn't set out to write books for other children. She set out to write books for people she knew, and then she had no idea that they would get published after like rejections as well.
I think that she doesn't want like a lot of money and popularity. She just wants people to like be happy about the books and like the book. She doesn't want like say, oh, I'm so good, I've written all the books. She just wants people to like them, and that's it, I think.
No, I don't know. No, I think I was reading the paper about her. There was an article on her a while ago, and it said that she hasn't moved to like any bigger house. She still lives in her flat that she lived even before that she became famous and got lots of money. She still lives in the same flat. So I think she's just happy. Obviously the money would help a wee bit with, because she wasn't like very rich before or anything. She was, but I think the money would have helped a bit. But I don't think she's made a big deal about it, like built a big mansion or anything like that.
As the sun goes down in London, England, and the neon lights shine over Piccadilly Circus, Joanne Rowling is preparing for one of the biggest honors of her career.
The Author of the Year award goes to J.K. Rowling.
The British Book Awards, better known as the Nibby Awards, are looked upon as the Oscars of the literary community. As Author of the Year for 1999, Joanne Rowling edged out seasoned veterans including the likes of Stephen King.
Trying very hard not to do a Gwyneth here. This is such an honour. Thank you so much. I have to thank Bloomsbury, as ever, in particular. Emma Matthewson, my editor, and Rosamond Delahaye. I'm so terrified. If you're all 9 years old, I'd feel so much more comfortable. Maximum Strength Lemsip as well, I would like to thank. I'm completely overwhelmed, as you can tell. I'd like to congratulate Jacqueline Wilson, because that is a great book. And I'd just like to say to her, the great thing about winning this is neither of us have to be photographed next to Jerry Hall, which is...
Alison Ellis and Andrew Fell Gordon are very plugged in when it comes to children's literature.
What a very pretty one. Yes.
Alison and Andrew maintain a children's literary online magazine for parents looking for guidance and advice on appropriate reading material. For them, the appeal of Harry Potter is straightforward.
I think it is this thing of good and evil, and that you've got the good guys and the bad guys, and I think that the children are responding to the fact that to me they're very moral stories, that she's saying if you do something wrong you are going to have to pay for it somewhere down the line, and I think they're responding to that. And I was saying to Andrew, one of my favourite bits was in the Chamber of Secrets, where Harry is very upset because he thinks that he should have been part of the Slytherin house, and Dumbledore is saying to him, but no, but you told the sorting hat that sorts them out into the houses you didn't want to. And it's not our abilities in life, it's the choices we make. And I think that is so important. And if she's getting that across to kids today, that's brilliant. So.
And you can imagine someone sort of being turned into a frog, you know, and back again when they're being obnoxious. And there's lots of sort of small children you see around, because I do work with education a lot. You think, you're a good candidate for a howler, you little...
I think it's too soon to tell that. I think the committed children that read will go on reading and reading and reading. But I think it's down the line we'll see that was the book that hooked the kid that couldn't be bothered to read. That's when you'll see the payoff on other things.
It's certainly not a marketing fad, I don't think, because it started almost sort of despite the marketing industry. It was sort of a success before it got publicised. But whether it is, I mean, it would be very difficult to think of too many other books in the same genre. So I can't see it spawning a style of literature. So it's whether the reading habit that it generates then is transferred onto other books.
She seemed very much as an underdog, sort of coming from this humble beginnings and striking out first time, that I think that people are behind her and say, good on you.
Oh yes, definitely. And Rowling, being a very private person and coming across always as a very private person, again, I think people here respond to that. They get a bit wary of authors who play the sort of media celebrity.
Chapters are quite hard to read. Some of them, like that one, when you first see it, it's quite hard to read, but some of them are quite easy, and some of the words are quite hard as well.
Yeah, I mean, like some of the words, like Dumbledore and stuff. I was like, what's that?
Spells, the spell names.
Yeah, and they're like,
what's that word?
I know when they're chanting the spells, it's like weird to follow in that. It's just like characters.
The toughest challenge facing these young readers is the wait for the next Harry Potter book. There's plenty of speculation as to what's going to happen, but at this point, even the title of the next edition is a heavily guarded secret.
I'm very superstitious about giving the titles of my books before they're published. It's just a thing I've got. I don't like telling the title. But if you've been on the internet lately and you've read that the fourth book's called Harry Potter and the Quidditch World Cup, that is a lie. It is not called that. It is true that you see the Quidditch World Cup in book 4, which some of you have read book 3, will know, because Ron says, right, at the end of book 3 that he's going to invite Harry to come and stay and see the Quidditch World Cup. Well, you do see it. It's Ireland versus Bulgaria. And that amuses me too. I just wanted countries that don't normally do great stuff sports-wise. Although Ireland did pretty good in the soccer 2 World Cups ago, but they're not the most sporting nation in the world, and nor are Bulgaria, as far as I'm aware. Although there were some good Bulgarian gymnasts. So anyway, I won't tell you who wins. It's Ireland.
Joanne Rowling has definitely touched a nerve when it comes to children's books. In the age of internet access, computer games and videos, girls and boys are reading again, and they can't wait to turn the page. They are literally spellbound.
I didn't read at all, basically, at all, until I read like books. I'd read them and then I'd just stop after about like halfway through, and I wouldn't read the rest. It was just I couldn't get into books. But after that, it was like I loved Harry Potter. It was the best book I'd ever read, and I've been reading other books since then, and I seem to enjoy them more.
It is appealing to young boys, which from the research they've been doing here is very, very important, because boys are seeing reading as a feminine activity. And so it's really good to see them hooking into these, and far better than them playing these computer games and stuff. So,
well, I think it's really good books, and that she should write more of them. And how I got interested in them, well, my friend Stephen, he did a book talk on them, so I kind of came interested in them then. So I just thought I'd like to read one. So I read one and wanted the other one because I heard that was good as well.
Favourite character's Harry, because he has quite a lot of courage and he's quite smart. And it's just sort of, he feels quite realistic. Not in like the magic and all that, but it's just like how he feels and everything.
I like the Philosopher's Stone because like it's like introducing everything, and like so you get into it really quickly and everything.
It's really good idea for the story. It's like totally different from any other book. It's like he's just in a new world, and it's really interesting to read about. Most books are adventurous, but this is like a special book. It's like the characters are like real in life, and the characters are so good. The author really put it like a mystery, and it's adventurous. It's really fun. My favourite book's The Prisoner of Azkaban. I like it how he goes to wizardry school and things like that. So.
He's good at Quidditch, and it must be fun when you can be a muggle and a wizard at the same time, and you can like do lots of things with your wand, and you don't need to like get up and get something. You can just use your wand and all that.
The next step for Harry and his pals is the silver screen, and not everyone is happy about it.
I don't want to go and see it, because it would just ruin it all, because it wouldn't really be imaginative. It wouldn't be the Harry in your mind. It would be someone else's Harry.
I certainly wouldn't want to see the film, because if you go to see a film, that's somebody else's interpretation of the characters, and if you love a book particularly, you don't want to see somebody else's interpretation of it. I don't know, well, you probably wouldn't want me to mention names, but I will. Mrs. Doubtfire, which was written in Edinburgh as well, I mean, when that was made into the film from the book Madame Doubtfire, it was a completely different book, a huge disappointment to the people that like the book. And I would hate that to happen to Harry Potter.
I'm both excited and nervous about the film, to be totally honest with you. I'm excited because if they do it right, it will be amazing for me to see. I'll be more excited than anyone to see it. The thing I really want to see is Quidditch. Because, yes, I am nasty, aren't I? See, I can see Quidditch really clearly inside my own head. To actually be able to see people doing it will be wonderful to me, this thing that I've seen in my imagination for so long. So that's why I'm excited. I am, of course, nervous that they're going to do stuff I don't want my characters to do, but that is a risk you always take when you sell film rights. It just seemed to me, I think I've gone with the right company. because they're giving me quite a lot of control. Actually, they're not really giving me control, I have to say. They're giving you control, because the only reason they really want to listen to me is there are about 1 million of you standing behind me wanting to see my version. That's why they're giving me power. So I'm under no illusions that it's really about me.
And there's no shortage of other questions for J.K. Rowling.
What would you do after Harry Potter, the 7th book?
I would ask her, are you going to write any more books after you finish the Harry Potter series?
Where did you get the idea for the three-headed dog?
How did she get her excellent ideas for the books? Why did you decide to become a writer?
I'd ask her where did she get all her ideas.
I'd ask her that if she, for the next 4 books that are coming out, for the 7th, I would ask her if she could write a special copy just for me.
Meanwhile, back at her home in Winterbourne, Ruby Potter is out giving the ducks their afternoon snack and thinking back to the quiet redhead who grew up to be a best-selling author. Ruby had a chance recently to reconnect with Joanne Rowling, and she shares a letter she received in the mail.
This here is a letter I received back from Joanne, and on the paper it's got by Owl Post, which is obviously connected to her storybooks if you've read them, and it reads, "Dear all, thanks so much for writing. It was great to hear from you. You will probably be relieved to know that Harry is not, in fact, based on Ian. It is true, however, that I stole your surname. I always liked it as much as I hated Rowling, and I gave Harry several different surnames before remembering you. Diana remembers you too, especially your caravan, of which we were immensely jealous. With best wishes, Jo." And I thought it was lovely that she even sat down and hand wrote it rather than put it through a computer, which is so easy to do nowadays. So I wish you all the best, Jo and Jessica, and I hope all goes well with you with your books.